So welcome back, students. Uh, Now we are in the second session. We will continue with the things that we left out in the first session. So, here we will start with platform flexibility in data state. Now, what do you mean by platform flexibility? First, we need to know about the flexibility in the platform in case of MS SQL Server 2019. All right. So flexibility means to run the software, the application smoothly over a given platform. Like you can run your SQL Server over Windows or over Linux or any other platforms or in cloud too as well. All right. So your enterprise wants flexibility to run best in class database softwares on any platforms, as shown by the success of SQL Server on Linux and success of SQL Server in Docker containers. Now, from the first session itself, we are coming across Docker containers. What are these? So Docker containers are the environments, the lightweight environments, the application softwares where you can perform your services like coding, executing, all right, all these things in a virtual environment in a very light manner. Like an example to this can be a virtual environment created in your system. Like if you consider the example of XAMPP, XAMPP. Okay, so this XAMPP, MAMP, WAMP, LAMP, all these are a kind of Dockers, a kind of integrated or composite software systems where multiple services are being hosted. Like if you consider this XAMPP, you will have integration of Apache, Tomcat, then the hosted services like PHP, MySQL. So we are not going across all these things. We are just considering an example. We are just citing an example where we have multiple services across a common platform, a common lightweight platform. So if you try to install the Apache server, the Tomcat server, the MySQL and PHP server on a single machine independently, it will cost you a lot. Means it is going to use huge amount of resources on your system. But in the form of XAMPP, it is occupying much lesser space as compared to individual installations. All right. So these are something different from this one, but we will not focus on all these things. So just remember that Docker means a lightweight platform, a lightweight software where services can be hosted or utilized. All right. So if we talk about the previous versions, because we are now in the verge of introducing SQL Server 2019. So definitely we will be comparing the features, the achievements, the benchmark satisfactions of its previous version or the predecessor. All right. So the SQL Server 2019 on Linux is the Microsoft's most successful SQL Server product ever, with over 7 million downloads since its release in October 2017. 7 million downloads means 7 million people have trusted SQL Server 2017 to be used as a database system, a relational database system over the Linux platform. Now, with the continued rise of container orchestration systems like Kubernetes, the database systems must be supported on widest range of OS and virtualization platforms. Suppose the virtualization platform again, if you try to use this virtualization platform on a physical system, what you can do, you need to have an image drive, an image hard drive for the software you need to use, and a virtual machine. Virtual machine for hosting your services. Like there is a software for software modeling like rational rows. This rational rows is very expensive software. Now what you can do, you can get it installed on your virtual environment with the help of the virtual machines, and it will work exactly in the similar manner as a standalone installation. All right. Okay, moving further. Now the power and flexibility feature of SQL Server 2019. So here it boasts, Microsoft boasts the SQL Server 2019 as industry leading capabilities because it has already proven its facts under 2017 version. It holds the various benchmarks in the areas like performance, like security, as we have already discussed. So we have performance benchmarks for the transaction processing systems. Now the top TPC performance benchmark for data warehousing at 1000 GB, 10,000 GB and 30,000 GB. So what this SQL Server is doing, this SQL Server is providing a large volume of data to be stored. And you can just imagine if you are trying to produce a document of around 500 pages, it will hardly occupy, if it is in the text format, it is hardly going you to occupy 1 MB of space. 1 MB for 500 pages. Now here 1000, we have 1000 GB, 10,000 GB and 30,000 GB. Now just imagine the volume of data over here. So SQL Server has crossed these benchmarks, these levels of storage. Then in terms of security, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, Public Security Board, the SQL Server continues to have lowest number of reported security vulnerabilities across the major database vendors. Though it is a report within 2010 to 2017 that SQL Server is the most secured database systems in the industry nowadays. So continuing to that, SQL Server 2019 continues the evolution of SQL Server, bringing new capabilities, the modern data ecosystems to better support and enhance data management and data-driven applications. All right. Now, what are these enhancements? Why do Microsoft boasts the things as a database system? So we will look at all those things here. So here we have the improvements in 2019 version of SQL as The first one, reason over reason over data anywhere, which includes integration with big data systems and new connectors for data virtualization. Now here is a term called connector. This one, connector. Now what is this connector? We came across the term. You might have you might have performed database connectivity using the Microsoft's technology like VB.NET, CHash.NET, or a Sun Microsystems technology like what do you call it, Java. So in terms of ADO and in terms of JDBC, what might have happened? You might have need or required a JDBC driver, means a kind of a program or a software which enables this Microsoft SQL Server to be incorporated or to be connected to your front-end systems like Java or ADO. So for that, we have a middleware called the drivers, which enables a communication between a front end and a back end. So for that, you need to have connectors which will help to connect your front end systems to your database systems. Then the second one we have is the choice of language and platform. So you have a variety, a range of languages and platforms where you can use SQL Server. The third one is industry leading performance and security. It has already been proven under the fact power and flexibility, because the SQL Server 2019 has been rated as the most secured version of SQL Server. So definitely 2019 will be a step ahead of 2017. All right. The next one, the only commercial database with AI built in. So we have inbuilt support for artificial intelligence in the database system, which may be utilized during the DADI, means data analysis, during the data analysis and data integration. All right. Next one we have is enhancing SQL Server or Linux. So now what SQL Server 19 aims at? To enhance its workability over the platforms like Linux in the similar fashion as it was or it is to be implemented over a Windows platforms. So the features that might be introduced with SQL Server 2019, nowadays it has already been introduced. We will be utilizing all these things. So what are those things? Including support for, see here, transactional replication and distributed transaction, not a common query, not a single query, but distributed queries. Okay. Now here we have the polybase, enhanced polybase, that is the query over a type of data. Over type of data means we have a generalized, we have a common platform where information have been stored in various formats. It may be a flat file, it may be a relational file, it may be structured, unstructured, any kind of data. So here it has been added first to SQL Server database engine in SQL Server 2016. Nowadays it has been enhanced much in its 17 version and nowadays 19 version. Well, now what does polybase do? It allowed just a second. It allowed customers to query big data store in HDFS compatible Hadoop distribution and file systems. HDFS means Hadoop distribution file system, such as Hortonworks, this Hortonworks, Cloudera, and Azure. These are the virtual environments. These are the virtual environments provided by various vendors to store data for the purpose of data analysis. Rather, the common terms data analytics, which includes everything related to a database system. Now, the storage from a transact SQL by defining an external table to represent HDFS data in SQL Server. So you have the permission to store your existing TSQL statement based data over HDFS data using SQL Server. In the simpler words, we can say whatever the information you have stored in your physical database systems can be sent to cloud. If you talk about Microsoft technology, it will be definitely a Azure based system. Now here we have a term called blob. What is blob? This blob is binary large objects. Binary large objects means there were two terms when we will discuss about the data types. So we have not integral, we have data types in the form of you can say integer, characters, floating point numbers, decimals. So few new things which were introduced by this SQL server as a data type included XML, clob, and blob. Rather, not SQL server, by Microsoft technology. In C hash also you will come across these data types. So XML, due to load of data transfer, blob and clob, these are character large objects and binary large objects, which helps in storing huge volume of data, which an integer, a character, a double does not do. All right, fine. Moving further, this SQL Server 2019 capabilities of Polybase with the new connectors, you can create external tables that link to a variety of data stores, including the Microsoft's SQL Server, the Oracle systems, Teradata, Mongo, or any data source with an ODBC drivers. So here we have come across the term ODBC drivers. We have different types of drivers: JDBC drivers, ODBC drivers. We have bridge drivers too as well. So we have if we have support for ODBC, the commonly used, that is open database. Open database means a database system where the connectivity can be done using different types of compatible connectors provided by the vendors. All right, fine. So here, moving further, let's put all these things out of the screen area. Okay, fine. So here, look at the page. So here we have the SQL server in the center with the Polybase, that is the external tables, which may be in any of the forms like the ODBC, that is either DB2 by IBM or SAP HANA by SAP, or MS Excel by Microsoft, or we have the NoSQL databases like Mongo, Cassandra, or the relational database systems like Teradata, Oracle, or Microsoft. Then the big data systems like Cloudera, Spark, or Hortonworks. So now these Cloudera, Spark, and Hortonworks are basically cloud-based data systems. All right. Yeah. Moving further. So we are not going to read all these things line by line. You can go through this. It is available on the Microsoft's website. Here, the TSQL queries based on polybase. So we have the polybase groups as SQL Server. Starting or beginning entering into the SQL Server, we have the polybase engine, and then the polybase data management store, or the DBMS, is a common term we can say. And for this external instances, means the data which are coming from external sources can be integrated with the MS SQL Server with the help of various polybase database management systems based on either SQL Server, based on Mongo, based on Oracle, based on Hadoop. So it generally shows the architecture of a conventional database system where the interaction is done from an external source, from various external sources, to the SQL Server or with the SQL Server. All right. So for every external data source, you need to have a polybase data management store or database management system within your polybase group. Okay. Moving further. Now here we have a term called clusters. We have a term called clusters. Now, what are clusters? Cluster means collections. Cluster means collection. That too, collection of similar kind of elements, similar data, just like an array. Okay, because if you are talking about cluster of grapes, so in cluster of grapes you cannot have mango. In cluster of mango you cannot have something else. Okay, so we're talking about big data cluster, which provides a scalable computing and storage mechanism. So what happens here in SQL Server 2019? The big data clusters takes the enhancements to Polybase to improve data virtualization experience between SQL Server and other database engines. Between SQL Server and other database engines, and add faster, more secure, and bidirectional integration with big data Hadoop and Apache Spark systems. Means we are talking about data integration. So data integration is generally a one dimensional or one directional, not one direction, what we say, the external data sources is getting collected or getting integrated into a common system based on SQL Server. That is data integration. But here the big data cluster helps in bidirectional integration. Bidirectional integration means you can send data as well as you can receive data. That is bidirectional integration. So you can exchange data, you can share data among multiple platforms. Now these SQL Server big data clusters bring SQL Server together with the industry standard big data tools in a package supported by Microsoft. Now why? To offer deep integration between SQL Server and big data. Now what is big data? Big data is nothing but it is an enlarged, magnified form of data. Means when we talk about information, it is a smaller thing. When we talk about data tables, it is also a smaller thing. When we talk about database, it has a bigger version as compared to data table. But when we talk about data warehouse, it is much huger as compared to a common or a conventional database. Similarly, if we talk about big data, it is integration or collection of multiple data warehouses available over the cloud systems, over the cloud storage rather. Okay. Now, what are the major functionalities? So it offers three pieces of functionality. Three pieces of functionality. Now, what are those? So we have the first one as data virtualization that we have already discussed. Then we have managed SQL Server, Spark, and data lake to store high volume of data in a data lake and access it easily using either SQL or Spark, means the query based work. The management services, admin portal, and integrated security make it all easy to manage. So you will be provided with an equipped set of user interface from where you can manage your data as well as your database systems. And the third thing is complete AI platform. See, this Microsoft is focusing on AI and ML thing. How? AI platform easily feed integration data from many sources to your model training, ingest and prep data, and then train, store, and operationalize your models in one system, in all-in-one system. Means you can easily integrate data from various sources. You will create a data model. Based on the data model, you will prepare a plan and you will train here, and then train, store, and operationalize your model. Then you will train your data model to be operational either by a supervised learning or by an unsupervised learning. All right. Okay. Next. So here these things have been shown using a diagram. The first one we have is a data virtualization scheme where we have the analytics and the applications combined together as TSQL commands, entering into SQL Server, having external database tables. Then we are using various computational tools and technologies for storing the data in the domain. So here we have compute pools and data pools, which may be in the form of either an ODBC, Open Database Connectivity Schemes, or the NoSQL schemes, or an RDBMS or DBMS, or the HDFS file systems. Similarly, in case of managed SQL Server, Spark, or data lake, we have admin portal and management services integrated AD based security. So here what you will get, a user ID or password. Basically you will be working remotely based on SQL Server and Spark to get a bidirectional communication with the scalable or shared data storage mechanisms like Hadoop systems or any other data systems. Now, how it is a complete AI platform? How can you say that it incorporates an AI system? So here you can see we have we have the containers for different data model based on REST API. Now these REST API will provide a kind of AI incorporated into the data models in the form of what you can say SQL Server machine learning library services, or in the form of Spark based on machine learning services. Now the external data source may vary. It is not fixed that it will be a conventional storage system or it will be a Hadoop system. It may be any kind of external data sources. All right. So these were the features under SQL Server 2019 based on big data. All right. So here we have some theories. Now we will be concluding up this session, and we will again in the third session continue with these introduction sessions, the features of SQL Server 2019. So tomorrow we will again resume our session from here. Till then, prepare your notes based on these things that we have discussed so far in the first and the second session, and try to imagine, try to virtualize yourself in an environment where SQL Server will be acting as a data storage mechanism for your company. Now, what are the things that you require from SQL Server? What are the functionalities that you require from SQL Server? What are the tasks that you need to perform through SQL Server? You need to visualize all those things, and gradually we will come to a conclusion that yes, this SQL Server, these RDBMS systems are the heart of any IT sector, any data-based organizations, or any person, programmer, developer who are based on data, means who work with information or data. Okay. So here we are concluding session 2. We will again come back in session 3 where we will continue with SQL Server 2019. Till then, goodbye everyone.